You want to say anything to introduce me, or?
Yes, I'm going to do that now.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Donna Hetzler with the Jericho Girls, and tonight we are talking about breaking down walls of unforgiveness and why it is so important to forgive. And Miss Laura Paget is here tonight to teach us our lesson. Super excited. She's a dear friend of mine, a sister from another mister, author of Jesus in Shorts. And Laura, if you want to hold those up at any time too, your books. There's Jesus in Shorts, which is a great read because it's short little stories. It's a play on words. It's short little stories that are so inspiring, and I'm sure Laura is going to be talking about them tonight. There's a couple that are dear to my heart about her dancing. And the meaning behind that. Mama's Ring is another one. I love this book. I used it as a morning devotional, and each day it was a God wink. So each day that message was very specific for what I was praying for when I read that as a devotional. So it really, really touched me and moved my heart as I read that. So that was wonderful. So author of Jesus in Shorts, and also her first book is Dolores Like the River. And this is her journey, how she became a Christian, and how mentorship, an older woman named Dolores, was such a huge role in Laura's life and helped her to become a better person, right? That's what our mentorship and Jericho Girls is all about. So 2 fabulous books. I started with Dolores Like the River, and then I went on to read Jesus in Shorts. Fabulous. Laura is also a very well-known speaker and a professional dancer. And so you ladies are in for a treat tonight. So I would like to welcome my dear friend, Laura Paget, to Breaking Down Walls of Unforgiveness.
Very good. And I wanted to make sure you guys could see me, right? Can you see me? And this is my problem. No one ever has any problem hearing me, but because I'm so short, people can't always see me. And that's not really a problem until you end up with something like, several years ago, I was asked to read in my church the gospel. And when I went up to the lectern, all you could see was this, you know? And so I thought, well, if they can't see me, they surely are going to hear me. And so in my best voice, I read the gospel. And I was so feeling proud of myself for overcoming this that when I went to sit back down, I heard this little girl say, Mommy, Aunt Janie's right. God is a girl. So, being short can have its disadvantages, but people cannot often see me. But you guys can see me, and that's good. And that's good because I have something to show you. Are you ready?
Yes.
I have something so fun. These are my new shades. Dude,
I love those.
I'm saying, aren't they fabulous?
That goes with your bug. It goes very well with your VW bug.
It does. It goes so well with Leonard. And I actually buy all my glasses at the children's department in Walgreens because those are the only ones that fit me. So I wanted to show those, and I wanted to tell a little joke so we could have an atmosphere of just kind of lightness as we move into this heavy place. And I've been working a lot with forgiveness, and boy, I tell you, I think I signed up for this, about 5 months ago?
Yes.
About that. Well, I thought, this is not going to be that hard. I'll just read some verses in the Bible and we'll talk about it. But I don't think that's what God wanted. I think he wanted some actual experiences. And I have had asked folks today on Facebook, and I am getting some feedback. So I don't know if you guys do need to mute. I'm not sure about that, Donna. Do you know?
Okay. I'll just do a mute and see if that helps.
Yeah, I'm getting some feedback here. Could be. Okay, I think that's better. Okay, I'm sorry, gals, but we will unmute. And if you need to say something, for heaven's sakes, please say something. At any rate, what happened was I started looking at some issues in my own life, and I talked to my husband about this. I've talked to God about this, and some other wonderful sisters and brothers in the Lord and my pastor. And the assignment that I had kind of asked people to do was just to grab one person or one group or one event out of your life and just look at, this is one that you're having a hard time forgiving, okay? Don't dwell, don't, obsess over this, but just have a look at that and maybe just kind of keep it to the side because we're going to use it in a little while without, I'm not asking people to share details. That's not okay. And even though we trust each other, that probably is not necessary. But I wanted to look at the word forgiveness because we have, in my opinion, in our society, we have these are real glasses. I wanted to have a wee look at this and say, what exactly is it and what is it not? Before we can even begin to identify ways to get it moving out of our life so we can, the unforgiveness part. So I went to, of course, the library online, and there were lots of different kinds of, I guess you would say, definitions. And forgiveness, according to the World, the dictionary, one of the dictionaries I used, and then, of course, Wikipedia backed this up, so we know this is right. Forgiveness is the intentional and voluntary process by which the wronged party, now they use victim, and I have a problem with that word. So I don't use victim, I use the wronged party undergoes a change in feelings and attitudes regarding the offender or the offense and lets go of negative emotions such as vengeance, retribution, justice by my lens. How do I get paid back for how do I get my justice in this situation? And basically, in Greek, it means let go. Let go. The Bible also talks about forgiveness, and on one of the Bible dictionaries I found online, the act of pardoning now came to play. Pardoning an offender. And the Greek word for this literally does mean to let it go. And when a person does not demand payment for their debt that they see. Forgive us our sins, for we ourselves also forgive everyone who is in debt to us. That's in Luke. Forgive us our sin, we forgive those who have sinned against us. And Jesus also talked about it in Matthew as canceling a debt. So those are sort of technical and hardcore sort of definitions, okay? These are mechanical definitions. These are what we have come to understand. I think that one of the most important things when we look at forgiveness is that it is a conscious decision to let something go. It is not necessarily possible to forget the offense. And we're going to talk about that a little bit when we talk about what forgiveness is not. I don't know if anybody is familiar with Lewis Smedes. Anybody ever hear of him? A friend of mine turned me on to this guy last week or a couple of weeks ago, and I started reading some of his work. And he has written a book called Forgive and Forget, Healing the Hurts, or Forgiving the Hurts We Did Not Deserve. But in that, he talks about the fact that it's not easy and probably not possible as humans to forget. And that we don't need to necessarily forget, but we do need to find a way to relook at what has happened. Again, he does specify it depends on the level of offense. If we're talking about somebody, took $40 out of our purse, or somebody physically hurt us. So we have levels. And he does say in one of the books that he's written about this, that people who quickly forgive and feel like it's forgiven probably weren't hurt that badly. This probably was a situation of the guy on the highway who cut you off, or, you know, the person who snarked at you in the office, or somebody who blamed you for something that you didn't do at work. But those are my examples, not necessarily Mr. Smead's. But there are levels of pain. There are levels of hurt and betrayal. And it's easy. I can't tell you anybody who cut me off on the highway yesterday. But what I can tell you is I'm still carrying a burden for the person I have selected to be in my particular lens this evening, who was a personal friend of mine, and one of the big organizers of events I participate in Christmas, who absolutely just hurt a lot of people by losing her temper and ripping us apart, and has never come back and apologized, nothing, and has never accepted my apology. So we are going to work through that kind of thing. But what I want you to understand about what Mr. Sneed said, and it's one of his quotes that I absolutely love, and we're hoping that I can find it. He says, when you release the wrongdoer from wrong, you cut a malignant tumor out of your inner life, and you set a prisoner free. What you discover is you are that prisoner. Right. So we know that forgiveness is for our health and obedience
do
to
the
God.
quote one more time, and then
You
maybe
can.
email it, or you can email it to us.
I will certainly, but he says, sure. He says, when you release the wrongdoer from the wrong, you cut a malignant tumor out of your inner life, and you set a prisoner free. But you end up discovering the real prisoner was you. So while we think we're holding somebody hostage with our hatred or our resentment or our righteous indignation and our thirst for judgment and justice, we are really holding ourselves prisoner, because that may never come. And our happiness, our serenity, our health depends on accepting the fact that that may never come. So he says we let go. Again, that's what forgiveness is in our dictionary. But many of you know about the saying, let go, let God. I'm hoping that we can walk into an understanding of that tonight. To let go of the wrong, to let go of the wrongdoer is one thing. But to totally heal from it, let God. Only God can heal those wounds. What forgiveness is not is self-mediated. You can make the decision to forgive, not insofar as I don't want any justice against this person, I don't want any revenge against this person. You might even get to the point where you're praying for their, goodwill. But in order for the wrong, the hurt, the pain to heal, let God. So it is not a total self, not if you want it authentically. These, again, are my opinions. This has been my experience. The most important thing that I've learned about forgiveness is authenticity. If you don't get real, you can't heal. No real, no heal. You could put the Band-Aid on the aneurysm, but it will eventually explode. The authenticity of digging into what happened. Now, again, we're talking big hurts here, right? Betrayals. This was a girlfriend, someone I trusted, someone I really loved. And that person, the pain that I experienced from, it was a misunderstanding. It was just a misunderstanding. And it became such a horrible blow up with such horrible accusations thrown. And I was defending myself against things I didn't do. And there was never any question in her mind that possibly it was on her end. So I didn't go after that. What I went after was trying to figure out how could we reconcile this. So again, when we talk about things that it is not, forgiveness is not necessarily reunion. There's a difference between being reconciled and being reunited. There are some situations, some relationships, some work relationships, sometimes even a marriage, a business that we honestly cannot remain in. And again, I go to Mr. Smeeds, who says, you could forgive someone almost anything, but you can't tolerate everything. Okay? We don't have to tolerate what people do just because we forgive they're doing it. Forgiving heals us personally, but to tolerate and to condone that behavior only hurts everyone in the long run, including the person who is the offender. So to say what you did is okay, no problem, let's go right back, that is not doing any good for anybody. And it betrays yourself. Then you end up feeling betrayed by your own self. And that is one of the hardest places to live. And I know I've done that. I have done that. If there's nothing wrong with setting healthy boundaries, but forgiveness is not necessarily about reunion. It's not necessarily about walking back into a situation, tolerating a behavior, engaging in activities that have caused harm. That was huge for me. So in my situation, I have let go of it, and I thought, cool, dude, snap, done. Until a few weeks ago, my husband and I were up in Golden for lunch, and this particular group I'm associated with is in Golden. And I was on the corner, and everything came flooding back to me. And I just collapsed. And the pain was so oppressive and probably had rebounded with a vengeance. And I realized that even though I had given it over to God and given her over, I had not walked through what I needed to walk through to authentically begin the healing process. It's hard work. It's very hard work. For me, it includes being so bone bare honest. I don't have to tell everybody in the world about it. The people who were involved know I was not the only one who was hurt. But I understood for the first time standing there on that corner and feeling what I felt, that yes, this happened. You didn't make this up. This isn't a dream. And I understood how very expensive it is to truly be authentic. Another thing that forgiveness is not a one and done. Done. I forgive her. Okay, God, help me heal. I may have to revisit it from time to time. It may be that I have to revisit for whatever reason. A memory is triggered, a smell, a song, some situation that will pull me right back into it. It is not a one and done until it is done. And that may or may not be on my timeline, which I really don't like very much. I'm not saying it cannot happen. What I'm saying is, once we hand it to God and we hand them over, let go. Now the let God thing is what I hadn't done in this situation. So for 6 months, I've been walking around saying, yep, okay, that's done. And I forgive her and have given that over. I've let go of her. And I'm not praying for a house to fall on her anymore. And I'm also not praying that even a small condo will fall on her. I'm actually let go of the vengeance, let go of the need to tell her off if I get the opportunity. But I had never sat down and unpacked the pain and let God heal it. So I had let go, but I had not let God. And it snuck up and hit me big time. But it was a gift. Because if I'm truly going to heal this, if I'm truly going to walk through this as a healed individual, I must know what needs to be healed. And that means I validate myself in saying, this really happened. Yes, it did. I don't have to run around and get the other people involved and say, dudes, do you remember when this happened? And she said this, and she said, well, she said, then I said, then we said. We've all been in those situations. But what I can do to make it real is just to go to God and say, this really stinks, God. This really hurts. And this really happened. And yes, let go is your first step. You have to. I have to. But I cannot hang on to any semblance of healing for long periods unless I have unpacked it and brought it to him and let him heal it. One of the things he has shown me is compassion for this person. It's a huge gift. And when I look at what her situation was at the time, she did not mean to do what she did. She was under tremendous pressure. She was really in a lot of hot water everywhere. And she lashed at me and some other friends of mine. And because I'm the leader of this group, I'm the one that got smacked. My choice at the time was to be a martyr. Oh, okay. I'm not going to tell any of the other girls about this. I'm just going to take it on myself. One of my favorite sayings from 9 to 5, I can't remember if it was Lily Tomlin or Dolly Parton, get off the cross, someone else needs the wood. Right. Get off the cross. And I can't do that if I will not authentically walk into what's happened here. So as it turned out, God has begun to give me compassion for this person. I don't burn with anger. I haven't for months. But I am beginning to see and understand that what happened wasn't about me. Imagine things aren't all about me. Hard to believe, but they aren't. And when he finally showed me what probably was happening to her during that time, I am beginning to heal. I still hurt, and I'm still concerned for the future for this group because I think she could make it tough on us, or even eliminate us. But I can't do anything about that. And I had actually, in part of my martyr work, I had written to her right after the holidays, as having a holiday time, and I told her that I was sorry for my part in this. That to me is a real big thing, to be able to personally inventory in an injury, did I have a part? Not automatically assuming I had a part, but to look at what could have been my part in this. So I did go like 2 weeks after it happened, and I wrote to her and said, this is what I think probably was my part in this. I apologize to you. I will put steps in, together so this doesn't happen again. And I've never heard a word back. Yeah. So we're going to move into that too. I talked to God about this, and what he has really brought to me, not so much what forgiveness is. I think I feel forgiveness is, in fact, exactly what he says. That's let go, mean no harm to these people, do not hold her responsible. The offense is not yours to punish. That's let go. To let him means I have to understand I cannot do it by myself. It's not done by me. It is not available. Quick fix. It's going to take some time. The longer I delay my authentic self from reaching to him, the more time I can be assured this will take. That's what I found. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon. And that was the hardest thing for me. I'm not a very patient person. So saying, I want this fixed, I want it fixed right now. Thank you very much, God. It did not work very well. And obviously, here I am several months later teaching on breaking down walls of unforgiveness. And what has happened? I had nothing to say to you about this other than academically, but now I do. It also is not an avenue to guilt. I can't forgive that person. There must be something wrong with me. What is wrong with me? Maybe you're not ready. Maybe you're not ready to heal. Maybe I wasn't ready to heal. I could not, at the point that the injury happened, it took me several weeks, and I knew that I needed to consciously let it go, or I'd have been, on, Tums every 2 minutes. So that I could do, but I did not take the time to authentically put it away in God's hands and say, help me heal from what's happened here. That was my mistake. And I felt guilty that I couldn't do that. Well, of course I couldn't do that. I also couldn't hang on the cross for all of you. I also can't walk on water. I'm lucky if I can swim. I cannot do a lot of things that are God's work, but I can move back and let him work through with me. And I also talked to some friends about it. Again, it's not a one and done. It may revisit. This happens. And it is not the paved way to reunion. So those were the huge, huge things he brought to me. And there was one more quote. Boy, this one really hit me in the head. It was about the hard work of forgiving people. Now, when we talk about this, we're not talking about just handing it off, right? Saying, there you are, God. I don't want the house to fall on her, and I don't want, her to get ingrown toenails or anything. Just, I'm not praying for anything bad to happen to her. But the hard work of healing, allowing God to heal me through compassion, through understanding my own part in this. This was the third quote from Mr. Smedes. Forgiving is love's toughest work and its biggest risk. If you twist it into something it was never meant to be, it will make you either a doormat or an insufferable manipulator. I forgive you. Right? Forgiving seems almost unnatural. Well, that's because it is, kids. We have this lifetime subscription to humanity, and that makes our nature at odds with God. We are made in his image, but the journey through this vessel, through this particular world, is to be more and more like him. And our nature fights it. I always have a better way. Our sense of fairness seems to tell us people should pay for the wrong they've done. But forgiving is love's power to break nature's rule. And I will send these to you, Donna. This has been such amazing work, and it was given to me by a woman who is a good friend of mine that we've been talking about. And she and I had processed this when I realized what had happened. And I said, holy cramoly, dude. And she told me about Mr. Smedes and also about another person whose work I've not started on. And I didn't write that woman's name down, but I will send it to you because I figure this will be more than enough on my plate. I think forgiving ourselves, forgiving others, two different things. I had written a piece, what was it? Probably in February, called Nailed It. Or maybe it was at Easter. It was called Nailed It. And it was about a recurring memory I had of a wrong I had done to someone that I love very, very much. That person doesn't even remember this happening. I have made an amends to him 50 times. And 50 times he said, yeah, I really don't know what you're talking about, but okay, forget about it. But God woke me up one night with this. I had been thinking about it, and he brought me up out of my sleep, and I wrote this. It's on my blog, and it's called Nailed It. And I sat down in a chair, and God said, what are you doing here? And I said, why is this coming to me? Why can't I get out from under this guilt? And he said, because you don't see it as all the other sins in your life, in the world, by everyone, nailed to that cross. It's nailed. Why do you keep unsticking it? Why do you have the staple remover or the nail gun extractor pulling it out and holding on to it? It is so covered with my blood. Forgive yourself. Go back to bed. Sleep. You are forgiven. But it is your choice to forgive yourself, to walk back up to the cross and pull that sin off and hang on to it. That cheapens his grace. I don't think it makes him very happy. He's not going to stand and slap me for it, but he gently reminded me, I paid this price. Why is it that you cannot allow it to remain paid? You are the one punishing yourself. So-and-so doesn't remember it. And he's even said, so to him, it wasn't that big of a deal. To me, it made me look like the worst person ever created. Forgiving ourselves. A great way to build walls or to break walls that we've built about forgiveness. No can forgive me, no can forgive you. I've set the pattern here. If my sin is going to come off the cross and hang in my hand, so's yours. You can bet it. When we forgive others, there can be sometimes when I very first started, and I'll share with you guys that, as some of you may know, I am a member of a 12-step program because I was born into an alcoholic family. And I have many alcoholic relatives now that I try to, navigate through. One of the things I learned was we do need to make amends for some of our behavior. What we say as families of alcoholics and addicts, they're drunks and we're nuts. One is not any better than the other in a lot of ways. Both do harm, both are destructive. So when I started to do one of my steps where we make amends to the people we've harmed, I thought I just would take out the phone book, open it up, and start with the first name there. Hi, Mr. Abrams, you don't know me, but I'm pretty sure I'm what's wrong with your life. It was a little twisted, right? That's not at all what it was. And when we go to make amends to another person, again, we need the authenticity. We need to really understand that we are making amends for us and out of obedience, as I did with this woman who was my friend. It may not come back to you. When I make amends now, in my breaking down my walls of unforgiveness of me and others, I check my motives. Why am I doing this? Am I expecting a payback? Am I expecting somebody to say, oh, dude, you're just brilliant. I love you. Maybe they're going to do just the opposite. They're going to say, yeah, you're a real turkey. Or maybe they're going to do what this woman did. Totally ignore me. Discount. And that hurts too. But walking into the amends, understanding I was doing it out of obedience and that there was a possibility there would be no feedback, I keep before me the motivation. The motivation is Christ-likeness. I may never hear from that person again. The second thing that I learned, it's not always a good idea. We say, and I've learned this, that sometimes making amends can hurt more than it can help. And that means it can hurt me or it can hurt another person. So it may not always be possible to make a face-to-face amends, maybe an email, maybe a letter, where you can't be contacted if it's been an abusive or, you're trying to keep away from that person. But the fact is, we must always protect ourselves and know, is this amends going to hurt? For example, I had a friend who years ago who dated married men. That's all she dated. That is all she dated, was married men. And she always dumped them. And she was going to go and make an amends to one of her gentlemen. And so she wrote a letter to his home. His wife didn't know about her. Ouch. Maybe she was making amends for herself, but boy, she caused a lot of trouble with it. So sometimes we must be sensitive to what the outcome can be. And sometimes it can be bad for us and bad for another person. So there are many ways to make amends. I'm sorry in a letter, a living amends if the person is gone, like my mom. I can do a living amends every day. I can walk in a way that is different from how I walked when she was alive. That's a living amends. Until I get to the other side, what can I do? I think pretty much, I hope that helps. We're at 1:15 now, and I had kind of geared this for 15 minutes of feedback. And Donna, we had talked about me reading a story. I don't need to do that if we have things. Oh, you muted me?
Yeah, sorry. I was just going down the row and I muted you by accident. So there we go.
No, that's fine. I just saw it just came up. But what I'm hoping for now is that we can have some dialogue.
Sure.
And if you wish for me to read a story, I shall. But it's more important for me to get the feedback from you of, did this help you? These are just my experiences, ladies. I hope I didn't sound like I was giving a lecture. Trust me, I am founder and CEO of the website www.cannotfindmyrearendwithasearchwarrant.com. And that goes for most topics. But I was just wanting to bring to you the word I'd been given by God, and to work out, come and help and see if there's any of this that resonates with you too, as we take away the bricks that build the wall of unforgiveness, which is malignant. He's right. It's a tumor.
No, this is so good. And then I'm going to just stop recording here in a second so that we can have our discussion. And
Sure.
So if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube and you want to be a part of it, just inbox me and let me know how you heard about it. And then you can join our meetings and be part of the discussion. But part of the discussion, all of the discussion is about breaking down our walls and being transparent. And that's not something to just do and put out there on the internet. So Laura Pageant, thank you for your lesson. And we're going to quit the recording and still continue our conversation for about 15 minutes. But again, if you can just hold up your books one more time and let people know where they can get them and how they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So this one is Jesus in Shorts. It's almost a year old. It was published almost a year ago.
I can't believe it's been a year.
And I want to tell you something about this. I don't know if any of you read my story, Accidental Signing. You read that?
Yes.
About in Idaho. My husband and I were witnesses to a hit and run. We got the license plate of the offender, gave it to the gal and guy who were in this car that got hit, went with them to the parking lot at the Walgreens, wait for the police to arrive. And I said, we can't stay long. We have to be in Coeur d'Alene to meet some folks. And let me give you my card. So I handed her my card, which is always in my books. And it had my name and the book on it. And she looked at me and she goes, I know of you. Well, I have to admit, when you've had a past like mine, this is not exactly new. But I looked at her, I said, how do you know of me? And she said, I know about Jesus in Shorts. I know this book.
Great.
And she bought one on the spot in the parking lot at the Walgreens in Moscow, Idaho. Who knew? But also, God is blessing this book with awards. So it continues to win awards. We've won 2 big ones and a third one. It's up for a third one. every time this gets an award, it doesn't say, oh, look at Laura, look at Laura. It gives exposure to a world. These are secular awards. It gives exposure to a world to have a look at topics like what we're talking about, forgiveness, you know, false images of ourselves, the dancing stuff, my elf stories, which are sad, some of them. And for a world to see Jesus, hopefully in a non-threatening way. I always say to people, I write probably for those like me, who came to the cross. We all have come to the cross broken, but you know, I almost always feel like my writing, I hope my sisters and brothers love it too, but it's really for the unchurched, I think. I think it is. God's kind of beginning to show me that. The other book is called Dolores Like the River. And it's about my journey after I met Christ in a Damascus moment in Montrose, Colorado. And this woman that God brought, she was 40 years older than me. She became my mentor. Both of these are available on Amazon. This is a Wespo product, and you can order from them on their website, or you can go to Amazon. Also, Amazon.com. Jesus in Shorts is available there. This one is in Kindle. I don't know if Dolores is still in Kindle. The reason is because it's 5 years old, almost 6 now. And I don't know when they take that Kindle thing off, but I've heard they do. So, or you can meet me for coffee, and I will sell you a book, autograph it, and or you can write to me. And I do charge postage and to send you an autograph book, but I'm happy to do it because it's that important to me that these stories get out there for people like us. You know, this is about us.
Right. No, it's good. And I'm probably going to botch your quote, but one of the quotes in the book that I love in Jesus in Shorts is, some do the dance and some live the dance. Am I close on that?
Some do the dance, some are the dance.
Some are the dance. Okay. Yeah, it's a great story. So check out Laura's books. We are going to stop recording, but those of you who are with us, stick around so we can chat about breaking down these walls.